All right, so episode 34, and yeah, so this one is pretty big, and it's not really the finale of the show. However, it is a bit of a story arc finale since this is where, well, we see Zeke get his comeuppance. So yeah, the episode picks up where the last one left off with Baku standing up in his new Zeztz extreme form, and yeah, everyone sees that he's all right, and I think it's Nazca who asks him. It's either her or Fujimi who asks, like, um, about what's going on, and he says that he is now Zet's Extreme. So yeah, the ultimate agent, and yeah, Minami, who's obviously excited to or relieved to see that he's completely fine, goes to goes to hug him, and he says, or he like finishes the hug and says he is now going to carry out his mission. And I think that's where actually he says the Zets Extreme stuff. But yeah, so then he fucking uses his, or he taps with his toes on the ground below him and opens up a portal into the dream world, which is just really fucking sick. I'm not gonna lie. And he falls backwards into it like it was a pool of water, which it kind of is. And yeah, and I like the portal that's underneath him. It shows the like blood moon that's always in the dream with the chunk taken out of it and everything. So yeah, um, so uh, he uh, he just falls into it, and it's his whole body this time. He's not lucid dreaming or anything. So yeah, he now has the power to travel between dreams and reality, and yeah, that's honestly pretty sick. So then he says begin infiltration, and as he descends from the sky basically to to the dream world below. So then he goes to where Zieg is keeping Nem, and I'm probably gonna float between Sieg and Zieg. By the way, it's weird in the show that because it's a Japanese show, they pronounce it Zig, so it's somewhere between the two. Um, but yeah, but in the subtitles it's spelled Sieg, but you could probably also pronounce it Zieg. But yeah, um, but granted, that's usually spelled with a Z and said in a different context. So yeah. But anyways, so yeah. So Nem then sees the letters return on her or on the note that Baku sent her in the dream, and he comes in and uh, basically reassures her that he's fine and everything. Then he starts fighting Zeke, and this is actually really cool. They have a really, really cool gunfight where they go back and forth on shooting at each other. They even get some shots on each other, but because it's a dream mainly, and they're both about the same like power level and everything, they really can't hurt each other that badly. Every shot on Baku turns into like this clear, like crystally kind of texture, and every shot on Zeke turns into this like shadowy mist kind of texture as well, which I guess that keeps this show like, I don't know, PG, or whatever rating it is in Japan on Japanese TV. Um, but yeah, because they don't show a ton of blood unless it's necessary in the show, but they definitely don't show the realistic like wounds that would happen from getting shot. So I guess it floats somewhere in between what for the censors for a kid show. Well, I say kid show. Kamen Rider is more aimed at like a slightly higher, I think, demographic than like the Super Sentai Project Red audience. So it's aimed, I think, more at that like shonen demographic of like teenagers. But kids can watch it, which is why they do air it on like I think like 9:30 a.m. in Japan on Sundays. So yeah, and it was back to back with Sentai for the longest time, for like 20 years, and then, or 25 years, and then obviously Project Red is now airing in Sentai's time slot of 9 a.m. So yeah, so you have that with the younger demographic, but then you go to the slightly older demographic, or that, and it's just interesting when it comes to this, especially when like you have other time slots like One Piece airing back to back with like Dragon Ball, and then they don't have blood at all. One Piece hasn't had blood in a very long time, and neither has Dragon Ball, unfortunately, at least on TV. So yeah, so yeah, they have a good gunfight where they have a conversation, and Sieg says that Baku likes to play hero or agents very well and everything. Um, but Baku says basically that he doubts that he can, or he doubts that even torture would make Zeke talk and everything if he were to give him a line of questions and everything. And Zeke just, I think, laughs at it or is just amused by it. But Baku uses the extreme capsum, I guess, to go into Zeke's subconscious, which I really love that touch, that he can do that with the extreme form and everything. He invented the thing, so it makes perfect sense that he knows what it can do, because that was his that was his goal with making it, was that he knew what he could do, and it also makes him more powerful. So yeah, so he brushes it up against Zeke, and it creates a dream door that looks like Zeztz. So yeah, and he says, "I'm going to infiltrate your subconscious," and goes through the door, and he starts seeing Zeke's memories from the last several years, and specifically how he got arrested and thrown in prison for so long. So yeah, so initially Sieg, I should also say this, Sieg says infiltrating, or don't infiltrate someone's subconscious without their permission, which, bro, you, that is some choice words coming from you, my guy. But yeah, so then we see Zeke go into, basically when he gets arrested and thrown in the prison cell, which I think is like, I'm pretty sure it's like solitary confinement as well. He laughs at them, saying that, the prison guards and the other people that threw him in there, that like locking him up doesn't really confine him to be, or against doing what he does, which is just killing people. So he immediately goes to sleep because he has the power of lucid dreaming at that point. And this is before he gets recruited by Code. He infiltrates the dream of his dad. And yeah, and we see a mansion setting. I think they've used this room before, and they've just dressed it up differently. And basically, he takes out all of the security and every one of the other people in the room that he doesn't kill run out of the room, which is basically the women that are in there, and I think a few other people. And he taunts his dad. Yeah, it's his dad that he's going after. He shits on him, saying that your son is locked up in jail, and you don't lose a wink of sleep over it. Basically, he's resentful of him for not worrying about him, but considering he did something worthy enough to get locked up in jail for 50 years over. Yeah, and considering his dad seems like, I'm not going to say necessarily a Yakuza, but something like that. Some kind of crime syndicate kind of thing. I don't really know what he expected. It seems like his dad is probably disconnected emotionally from him, which probably explains a lot about how Zeke turned out. But yeah. I will say, though, his dad kind of looks like Gustavo Rock from Big Time Rush. I'm not going to lie. They found a dude to play that character who just looks like a Japanese version of that actor. And he also has, like, this really long, like, kind of scraggly beard. It's just kind of funny. So his dad is going to pull out a gun to kill him, but then Zeke uses the power, or his powers, to teleport right beside him and kill him, after threatening that, like, if he were to kill him in the dream, he probably wouldn't wake up in real life. And so he doesn't. Yeah, he kills his dad in the dream, and that causes his dad to die. Which I just realized, yeah, this will be important for the next episode, by the way. So yeah, this little detail and everything. So then we see news broadcasts in a mix of English, French, maybe one other language, but I didn't pick it up. With, like, their subtitles for the audience in Japan to read, because obviously they're not going to readily understand a lot of the words. So yeah, especially in the French, I think, broadcast. But basically just news broadcasts all over the world as Scsigs does more killings, where they say a bunch of bad people, I think, like mob bosses and whatever, or just criminals, like high profile criminals, and what else? Politicians, like bad politicians, are starting to die all over the world unexplainedly, basically just in their sleep, because what Scsigs does is he uses his powers of lucid dreaming to invade their dreams, and he kills them in the dream. So yeah, it's a very Freddy Krueger type way of him using his powers and everything. So yeah, and because the people who locked him up know it's him, because I'm assuming he's not even hiding it, because why would he? He really doesn't have any reason to. He keeps getting additional, like, initially another 50 years, then more years add on. Baku like counts up to 1,000. He adds 100 to the initial 100, and then I think an extra 300 to 500, and then 1,000 and whatever, or however much he counts. And like Scsigs also comments on it as it's happening as well, and just recapping everything. And at the end of it, that's when Scsigs gets recruited by Code and everything, and thus we go back to, or if you remember, we line up where I think the flashback with the lady was from however many episodes ago, where she and Scsigs were in that Code headquarters room, and Scsigs talks about how he is a criminal, and Code are using him for their experiments and everything. And Scsigs was also he also comments on how the dream learning, I think, was fun or something like that. And yeah, basically he went through a similar training to what Baku went through in the first 24 episodes. Yeah, good going, Code. You trained a fucking serial killer who has no, like, morality or anything to be an agent for you. You are dipshits. I'm not even gonna lie. But granted, considering who's the top brass, apparently, or part of the top brass in Code, I guess I'm not surprised. More on that in the next episode. So yeah, so after Baku is done learning about Scsigs' past and everything, he exits the door, and Scsigs oh yeah, right, there was another part of the flashback as well. Eventually Scsigs does so much bad shit and gets more powerful, I believe, that he meets the nightmare in his subconscious, and basically he uses I think it's an Iron Maiden to fuse together with it in the dream world to absorb its powers into himself and use them for himself. So yeah, so he is basically the evil version of what Baku did towards the end of the premonition dream and everything. Whereas Baku was using it to protect people, yeah, Zeke just let it completely envelop him and everything. To where he's not too different from how he was before. But he definitely also changed when absorbing the nightmare and everything. So yeah, so we have all of that, and Baku uh, comes out of his subconscious through the doorway, and they get ready to fight with Baku asking Sieg if the things that he's saying, or maybe it's later on that he says this. Actually, yeah, I think it's later on that he says this. But yeah, so they get ready to fight, and Sieg transforms into Kamen Rider Dawn, where Baku transforms into Extreme. So yeah, so I can't remember exactly when this happens in the episode, but at some point during this, Minami gets back to her and Baku's apartment. She checks his room, sees that he's not there, but she sees that in his closet, his Zeztz room returned, and she goes into it and sees the entirety of the mess that Baku made when reinventing the Zeztz driver and creating the Extreme Capsum and everything. And she says to herself, "So this is where you did it all." So yeah, yeah, that's very interesting. I don't think anyone expected like the stuff to be there when Baku was done in his dreamscape when he was dying in the last episode. But I do like it. So yeah. So then Baku and Zeke start fighting more, or fighting again, and in their Kamen Rider forms, and basically they start off the fight with like a CGI battle. I'm not gonna lie, because the fact that you can tell it's CGI, it's not necessarily bad CGI. It's just very obvious. And the fact that they're very floaty and everything within the world because they're on a green screen. It's not too great, but they do try to do some like really like heavy duty shit with all that. And when it comes to that, in terms of the start of the fight, I think it's pretty exciting. Then they transport. They transport to an actual real world location and start fighting there. And they pretty much trade blows with one another. And Zeke thinks that he thinks that he stabbed Baku in the back or something. Basically thinks he killed Baku, but Baku has or a trump card up his sleeve, I guess, and or an ace in his sleeve, ace up his sleeve, whatever the right thing is, and he reveals that he can basically kind of. It's not necessarily reversing time, though it's similar to that. I think later on that's reversing time is what he does. But basically, what he can do with his extreme powers is project into another person's mind something that they want to happen in the dream, um, and let that carry out, but then reveal that it didn't actually happen. So basically, he got the powers to change people's dreams, just like Seek has. It's just that he didn't fuse with a nightmare to make it happen, and he can do it, or he does it not for malicious purposes, but for other reasons and everything. So yeah. So then they continue fighting and everything. Zeke tries to change the dream that they're fighting in, which is basically Baku's, I believe. But Baku halts it and reverses it, and says, "I'm not letting anyone change my dream." And just like, I think he points down and makes Zeke, I think, I think he falls through the ground uh, to another place, and they continue fighting. Then Sieg, when Baku powers up his driver, and I think Sieg basically goes to do the same with his swords and everything. Um, they pretty much Sieg tries to deal the finishing blow on Baku, but Baku again changes how that goes, and he delivers a rider kick that is probably the most powerful in the series thus far, as he immediately gets through Sieg's defenses and pretty much just kills him, at least in the dream world. So, yeah. So, Sieg says that Zeztz was a lot of fun as he fades away. So, yeah. So then Baku goes to check on Nem again after using his powers to restore her dream to what it was before Zeke changed it. And, yeah. Um, basically just reassures her that everything's all right and everything, and basically espousing that, like, I think something about along the lines, I think, of they shouldn't be afraid to dream what they want to dream, or something like that. So yeah, so just a really good episode, really fucking, like, I'm not gonna lie, just really exciting. If you really like action, I would very much recommend this. If you have been keeping up with the series thus far, if you've been watching the series, I would recommend watching this episode if you haven't already. It's funny because, like, I'm looking on the YouTube uploads for Tokusatsu, and it has some of the highest, like, viewer counts in a bit. So yeah, I'm like 3 episodes. So yeah, not really by too much. It's like the others are like in the mid 30Ks, whereas this is almost 50K in a week. That's actually really, really cool. So yeah, I love the use of the extreme powers as well here, because it just basically shows Baku having basically unlocked God mode by inventing the extreme powers and everything. I love the use of the kind of the imagination on display here with the use of the powers. I love, like, the visuals and how they do the action with it. And I just love that Baku, it's basically a curb stomp battle with Zeke, and the only reason that Baku, I think, doesn't take him down right away is because several times he tries to give Zeke the benefit of the doubt and try to get him to either see a different point of view, or see a different way of doing things, and or just try to gauge his humanity. But he sees that Zeke doesn't have much humanity at all, really, if at all. Um, yeah, much humanity, if at all. There we go. So yeah, and he even asks Zeke at one point if the words that he's saying are him or the nightmare influencing his thoughts. And Zeke says both. It's both him and the nightmare, and since they're one and the same, it's basically just him 24/7, which then causes Baku to want to take Zeke out. And yeah, and he basically uses it as a last resort, because Baku, being a really good person, just wants to give Zeke the the absolute best number of chances to make him seem like, or make him, like, come off as a decent person, or a decent person underneath, or whatever, and see if it's all a facade. But yeah, no, Sieg is not one to be hiding anything really about his personality and his intentions. So yeah, Baku gave him a lot more chances than I would, considering he's been torturing him for the last, like, almost 10 episodes. So yeah. Um, and I do love that it's the rider kick, the superpowered rider kick that Baku uses to kill him, quote unquote kill him, just get rid of him for a bit, I guess. Considering the next episode preview of the next episode shows him alive and well, and not everybody believed it. Plus, whenever an actor leaves the show, or I guess any show in Japan, they give them flowers. I think if it's an actor that has been in the show for, like, multiple episodes they do that. So yeah, and Scsigs actor hasn't gotten that yet, especially since he played a previous Kamen writer. I bet they just want to use him to their fullest ability before they get rid of him from the show. So yeah. Um so yeah, and then Zeztz extreme form. I actually really like the design of it. I can't remember if I talked about it last time, but if not, yeah. But even then, I kind of wanted to talk about it a little bit more. It's really, really nice. It's pretty much all black underneath with different colors in the highlights, mainly like some gold and red, and a little bit of blue on the helmet and everything, with I think a different red than what's on the body on his visor, which is just really cool. And he has like more pointed shoulders and everything, and that is honestly really cool. I really like the design of the extreme form and everything. So yeah, probably the most the most like pulse pounding part of the action is when Baku and Zeke are having their gunfight at the beginning. They do a lot of really good like choreography, I think, with it and everything, and they do have some words exchanged in between it, which I think is really really cool. Definitely wearing the James Bond in what is the word, James Bond like influences on their sleeves and everything. But because this is a dream, they can actually show some of the bullets landing hits on each of them. Whereas if you do that in a James Bond film, you kind of need at least one of the characters to get hurt by that. So yeah. Um but yeah, I don't really think I have much else to say on this. It's just kind of a simple thing, but it's also kind of a simple plot and everything, but it is just a uh, a good way to go about it and everything, and I actually really really like it. So yeah, on episode 35. So we go from the little detour with the arc of Sieg to basically continuing what was going on earlier before Sieg kind of cut in for almost 10 episodes. So yeah, I think it was like 8 episodes that he was around for at least that arc. So yeah, 35, and basically kind of a more straightforward, kind of easy episode to talk about in terms of, I guess, length of the plot or whatever. So, we basically see uh, Baku, Nem, Minami, Nazca, and Fujimi have a barbecue in the dream world. I really have no idea as to why Baku is allowing them to sleep, at least right now. Granted, I guess he thinks that no matter what Code does, he can protect them in the dream world since he's got his new extreme form. But I don't know, it still seems kind of dumb to me. But yeah, and we get some little details like Fujimi hasn't eaten really meat or anything in a while because of the fact that he is currently unemployed, and he's been picking certain plants down at the river. I forget what river it's called, but yeah, near Tokyo and everything, and eating those. Kreha comments that he'll get sick doing that, but he doesn't really have much of a choice because he can't really afford anything because he's unemployed. And Nazca says that, and it's Nazca that says that he'll get sick. I can't remember if I said Kreha or not. I think I fucked up there. But anyways, so yeah, so she, says that she's trying to get the paranormal affairs division reinstated. But yeah. I also forgot to mention that in the last episode, they do have a meeting with the police department where they tried to because the I think the police chief like they were talking to him about or he brings up the I think the social media posts for the nightmares and everything, and I think Zeztz that have been shared with pictures and everything. he tried to talk to them about about what was going on, and Kureha tried to or not even just tried to, but said to him, um, pretty much just put them in charge of everything, and I guess basically just reinstate the Paranormal Affairs Division. And I guess they're taking a bit to do just that. So yeah, so yeah, we just have that. But then who shows up but Kureha, and she is she's like wondering why they're not wondering why or what she's doing there. And Baku's just like, don't worry, you're just Kureha right now, right? Um, but yeah, and Nazca has her join their barbecue and everything. But elsewhere in Tokyo, Dream Tokyo, we see 5 with a new capsum. There's also, I also forgot to say, towards the end of the last episode, we see 3. He talked to Zero about everything, and actually no, I think it was actually right. It's actually in this episode. So basically, 3 is well, we saw a shot of him with a capsum in, I think, his driver, and like powering it up and everything, and that's supposed to leave off for the next episode. Here we see that 5 has the same capsum that 3 had, and he uses it to influence the moon that's in the sky, the blood moon, and down falls some red, will look like flower petals or even snow, and it falls on everybody who's dreaming right then in the dream world, and sort of puts them in a bit of a hypnotic trance. Then we see Kureha walk away from the barbecue, and Baku wakes up and everything. So yeah, so then I believe it's after this we get a meeting between Zero, who's in a holding cell, and 3, and Zero deduces that they've, or I think it's 3 who says that they've implemented Code Somnia, and he says that they've influenced everyone who was dreaming, their minds and everything, because they can. The power of Code Somnia is to control people's minds, their memories, and their perceptions of things. And Zero says that Code Somnia was not originally developed to be used that way and everything. The 3 counters that it's basically the best way to ensure, like, I think, security around the world and everything. So yeah, and so basically we then see they have a bit of a conversation about where 3 wonders if agents 1 through 7 were or 0 through 7 were the only ones that gained the power of dream, or gained their powers through dream learning, basically the power of lucid dreaming, because those are the people that are not affected by Code Somnia. And yeah, but then he also he asked Zero that to see if Zero knows any other people that are affected by that or aren't affected by that. Zero doesn't really say anything about that, but then 3 says 2's daughter is the other one and everything. Basically, Zero says at this point that they're gonna eliminate all of the agents and everything, and then 3 says the stuff about Nem. So yeah, so then we see Baku. He basically wakes up and wonders what the hell was that, and then goes out. Or no, he goes back into his Zeztz room and picks out some capsules while calling Nazca, and tries to ask her if there's any like black cases or anything that she's heard about. She doesn't know what the hell he's talking about, and she's confused as to who he is. So, after he tries to remind her of who he is,
she hangs up because she's freaked out because like she says only her mom calls her Nazca. So yeah. Um, so Baku, after he pulls out a couple capsums, or three capsums, he wonders what the hell's going on. So then he goes down to the river where Fujimi is, or where he presumes Fujimi is, and he tries to remind Fujimi of who he is, but Fujimi doesn't remember. So yeah, um, Fujimi thinks that he remembers him, he remembers maybe meeting him in a dream, but doesn't fully remember and everything. He basically says that it's not coming to him, and yeah. So then Baku goes out to lunch with Minami, but when they're at, I think it's a mall or something, um, they or he sees a plaque and an advertisement for stuff with Nem. But we see two guys who seem to think that Nem is, I think it's Nemlin is what they call her, and they see her as a 2D cartoon character. So yeah, and also, right, I forgot about this. When Baku tries to convince Fujimi about what he's talking about, or trying to remind him about him and the nightmares and everything, he shows him a social media post, but all Fujimi sees where the nightmare is a cartoon version of it, and he says it looks photoshopped, even though Baku sees it as it is regularly. So yeah, so Baku's obviously confused and everything, but yeah. So then Baku asks Minami or what she sees on the advertisement. She sees Nemlin and everything. So then Baku races back home and gets into the dream world where Kureha is about to eliminate Nem. So yeah, who's initially excited to see her, but then realizes Nem's not there for pleasantries and everything. So yeah, so Nem takes her gun and points it at her and is about to shoot, but then Baku comes in and I think gets Nem out of the way and everything. And yeah, then fights Kureha and wrestles her gun away from her. And then he and Nem run away. But then Kureha turns into her Kamen Rider form. So yeah, I forget what it's called, but it doesn't really matter. Anyways, so yeah, so she chases after them while they go into a warehouse. But they bump into the two guys from the mall from earlier who see Nem, and she basically just looks like a VTuber. I'm not gonna lie, they actually did really well with the art style and the character design and everything for her. She definitely looks very much like a VTuber model and everything, and I think they even used a similar animation for that. Because if you look at VTuber models when like they're on like live streams or even in VODs of live streams or just video clips, they move at a higher frame rate and everything, and they move in a certain way that is very cartoony and everything. So I think they got that right with the little bit that they had to do. So yeah, kudos for them when it comes to that. So yeah, so Baku informs Nem that those two guys and basically everyone else sees her as a 2D cartoon character. And so they get into the warehouse and everything, but then Kureha catches up to them and starts firing on them with her gun. Baku takes out his gun, which is the one from Zeroider, the one that transforms into the sword and the gun and whatever other form, which I really wish he would use that more often. I'm not gonna lie, he hasn't used it in a very long time, and I know that his like arsenal is mainly his fists, his feet, and whatever else, and like the physical fighting and everything, the physicality of it, and that's partly what they're using for, um, or that's part of the thing with Kamen Rider is the more physicality of the fighting and everything, with like the fisticuffs and the CQC and whatever, and it's not that bad. I just wish that he would use that gun more often, especially since he got Zeroider back several episodes ago. So yeah, it's just really weird to me that he just hasn't used it in so long, especially when like he was cut off from Zeroider, so he didn't have access to the weapon and everything. I really wish and I really hope that they start bringing it back in the next however many episodes as part of his arsenal, especially when he can use it. And he can use his capsums in it. So, yeah, and we've only seen him use, I think, a set number of capsums in it. Even if it's not toy accurate, it would be kind of fun for him to use some of his newer capsums in it. But yeah. Um, so yeah, so he pretty much draws Kureha's fire and gets Nem to a safe spot and everything. Then he transforms into Extreme and starts fighting her. She basically gives him a decent fight where, because she's more acrobatic than Zeztz is, she uses like, or she dodges his fists and everything pretty well for the most part. But when she thinks that she's had him, he uses his like dream powers to make her think that she's gotten him, when in fact she hasn't. He uses it twice, I believe, maybe 3 times, and he eventually gets the better of her, and she tries to use like her like, what is it, like her powered form or powered attack and everything, but he's not having it, and he uses his to punch her and eject the capsum from her driver and everything and weaken her enough to the point where she can't fight back. Um, so, yeah. He then tries to convince her that um, everyone should be allowed to, I think, dream their own dream and basically have, or basically do what's in the best interests of humanity and everything. And Kureha does agree with that, and he manages to convince her to start to tell him what's going on. And all she can get out is code Somnia, but she can't even really finish Somnia before 3 comes in and shoots her. Yep, he also shoots a few times at Baku, but he manages to just, mainly because it's a dream, deflect the bullets like Wonder Woman style with his wrists, like he has wrist guards on, that can deflect that shit. But yeah, so 3, basically, he criticizes Kureha and calls her basically, I think, a rogue or something like that, and uses a capsum to, not sure what kind of capsum it is, but a capsum to basically execute her. And when she's still reeling from it, he uses, I think, another capsum to, or something, I can't exactly remember, to basically phase her into the wall, leaving behind an imprint of her. I'm trying to remember what that reminds me of. I swear it reminds me of something. I just can't remember it. But then as she dies in the dream, she also dies in real life by turning into a bunch of like pink water, pink slime, whatever the fuck. And I'm just gonna say, quoting one of the YouTube comments of the YouTube upload of this episode, that's a choice. That's a narrative choice. So yeah. So then the 2 guys from earlier are outside the doorway of the warehouse, and 5 catches them and everything and like grabs hold of them. And basically 3 says that Kureha was a I think a defective agent or something like that from beginning to end, and Baku tells him to take that back right now. And then I think starts to criticize 3, or and Code. He says agents are not pawns for the organization, or something like that. And 3 says, "Watch your tongue. You forget. Oh, we control the dream." basically what they did with Code Somnia as well is they linked everyone in the waking or everyone in real life's dreams together. So they're in one singular dream matrix, basically, which I think is what I love the theme songs of this show. They pretty much, I think they got at least some like details of the show going in. So like there's certain lyrics that definitely like foreshadow certain things in a bit of a oh, what is the word? A not a mystical way, but like a way where you wouldn't know from the start. But yeah. So then uh 5 brings in the two guys and uses the capsum he used to influence the earlier dream to take over their minds, and 3 tells them to turn into animals and fight to the death. So they start fighting. Baku tries to break them up, but it's no use, and they basically just bash him or bat him away. And 5 tells them it's no use. They'll keep fighting until they die. So yeah. Baku tries to tell him to turn them back to normal, but he manages to subdue Baku with, I think, a full Nelson or some kind of hold. And 3 tells him that they'll turn him back to normal, or they'll turn them back to normal if he gives them his driver and capsum that he created. To which Baku thinks about it for a second, but eventually does. I don't really understand why he makes this move. Like, I get it. Baku's a good person, and he wants the best for everybody, and he's trying to do, like, a lesser of two evils kind of thing. But the thing about it is just, like, he easily could just transform into Zeztz Extreme, and I think, at the very least, try to overtake Code Somnia, because realistically, if you think about this, if Baku wasn't strong enough to probably either give 3 and 5 a good fight or defeat them outright as they are right now, he could definitely defeat 5, but 3 maybe could be a little bit more of a challenge. We haven't really seen 3 fight. He's more of the kind of guy to just basically be a dick and influence things in a dirty way. So yeah, we haven't seen him in an actual physical fight. Plus the things he's used are the capsums and the gun, so we don't really know about his fighting prowess. So I think mainly because of the fact that they are making Baku yield to them, I think that he could easily overwhelm them. At the very least, he could overwhelm 5, and without 5, I don't think 3 would stand a ghost of a chance against Baku. I'm not going to lie. Without any type of backup. It's just something that I honestly think is what's going on here. And I think that's what 3 was trying to... Now thinking about it, it's probably what 3 was trying to do with his driver and the capsum was probably... The Code Somnia capsum is to try to power up his driver enough to take on Baku and anything, give him a fighting chance against him. Because they see into the dream world and everything, no doubt they saw his fight against Scsigs and what he can do. So, yeah. It's either that or they don't know what he's capable of, but they know he's more powerful than ever. So, yeah. Because, yeah, especially with how 5 fights with, like, his, like, head first kind of way of thinking and his more, like, strength influenced, like, fighting style. Yeah, Baku could definitely take down 5 in no time flat. But, yeah. So, yeah, Baku does get out the driver and capsum and puts him on the ground, and then 3 kicks him away and takes out his gun. And is pretty much, and he says, "I'll make your premonition come true," and lines up almost exactly how he did when he killed Baku in the premonition. The only thing is, though, Baku isn't like overly emotional like he was in the premonition, so um, he doesn't react with like a yell. He reacts with more of like a trembling fury, where he's pissed, and he's just looking up at three, shaking and everything because he's like really fucking mad, but he can't really do anything about it. I also just have to wonder, like, can he not call the driver and the capsule back to him? It's one of those things where like he can control that and yet he can't. It's one of like, I'll tell you, the cutscene where Sora calls back his Keyblade in Kingdom Hearts 2 when he's fighting Roxas, just kind of goes so hard because you don't usually see something like that. But it is established earlier on in Kingdom Hearts 2 that he can do that, so why not? So they just have him do that and like defeat Roxas with it in a sneak attack. So because Roxas doesn't expect it for some reason, he doesn't expect it, even though he's a Keyblade wielder. But whatever. Um, and I would think that Baku would be able to do something similar to that. Granted, I do know that they did say that Code controls the dream, so yeah. But Baku, I would think that he would be able to mentally control his shit like that. But yeah. And then the episode just ends on that cliffhanger. I hate the fucking next episode preview of this shit. I really think that they didn't need it, or they should have cut it a different way. They immediately show several shots of Baku being fine. They show him standing up in the next episode. They show him, I think, in his Kamen Rider form. So, whoever the fuck edited together the next episode preview, you guys fucked up. This was supposed to be a cliffhanger that leaves you on the edge of your seat and like makes you think, is Baku gonna die? Are they gonna have to like do something maybe to bring him back or something like that? Which I think would be a really interesting narrative choice. But at the same time, it's just like, guys, come the fuck on. Just don't show any shots of Baku. Fucking hate that. When I watched the stream on Tokusatsu for this episode a couple days before you'll see this, I'm just like, why? And then I said the same shit on Blue Sky and Twitter, and I think one of the Discord servers I'm in for like Tokusatsu stuff. It's just like, why the fuck show something like that? You're fucking shooting yourself in the foot with that cliffhanger. That cliffhanger was so fucking good. This is why I don't watch next episode previews for like Japanese shit. They fucking spoil everything. You know, or they can. And like, I know the whole thing is just like, I know it's a serialized narrative, I know it's continuing episode to episode, but at the same time, it's just like, I don't know. Like, I hate next episode previews like this. When it's an episodic show, or you don't show anything that's supposed to be like that big of a cliffhanger and everything, so you're expecting more to come and everything, it's just like, it's fine. But like when it's when it's something like this, it's just like, come the fuck on, guys. But yeah, so we get that. So overall, I think this episode is actually pretty good. It's however, it's definitely kind of a setup for the next episode or two to come. Yeah, one thing I'll say though is Kureha. I was very much expecting them to develop her similarly to how they do here, but like give her a few more episodes to more directly connect to Baku, reconnect with Nazca maybe, and maybe betray Code and become a what do you call it, an ally to Baku and everything. One angle I think that they could have taken it was maybe she was a double agent, or she became a double agent for him. The thing is, like, they do monitor the dreams, but I don't think, because, you know, real life, I don't think that they can readily, like, track shit that happens in real life unless if they have someone, like, tailing their, like, another agent tailing one of their agents and anything, or and everything. So I think that they could have easily used Nazca for that. But yeah, I think Nazca, or not Nazca, fucking Kureha, could have easily turned out to be a like more developed and fleshed out character than unfortunately she became in this series. She is unfortunately a bit of a wasted potential, and I don't know what else to say. And we know that she's not coming back because her actress on Twitter posted a picture of her getting flowers after this episode wrapped filming. So yeah, she might be in the movie, but I don't really know. It's just an utter waste of fucking potential. I hope that Baku can bring her back to life. It'd be really shitty if he didn't by the end of the series. But yeah, five might be able to be convinced to betray Code once he hears what actually happened to Nazca, and if Baku can convince him of why Kreha started to betray Code and everything. But yeah, I don't. It bothers me when they have such a good character that they can use in a certain way. And I get it. Yuya Takahashi, he has a vision for the series. He has a storyline all mapped out and everything that he probably doesn't want to deviate too much from. But it's just like, come the fuck on. Just give a few more episodes to Kureha. Develop her into a more fleshed out character and everything. Have her like do something actually interesting because she's an interesting character, and I think that she's probably the closest to Baku in regards to morals and everything. I don't know. It's just fucking hated that. And maybe that's supposed to be the intended reaction, is that you're supposed to feel anger towards 3 for taking out Kreha. But yeah, it's just I think we could have had the same feeling after getting a few more episodes with Nazca where she betrays Code and maybe is a double agent or whatever. I don't know. It seems like that would be a natural like storyline to include in this series, especially since we have roughly 15 episodes left of the show. And we just got done with the Scsigs arc, and then we're on to probably towards the next stretch, towards the end game of the series. And like you can have a few episodes where like new shit happens like this, you know? And I would think because Code Somnia happened and everything, Baku would have to make certain decisions and everything. And I don't really know. You could have something happen behind the scenes with Kureha, because she was already having doubts about Code and everything, and if Code Somnia was the best thing for them to do, with 5 like reassuring her that they just need to do their mission, and it's just like, oh man, I don't know. It's just like they had a really good setup with this character, but oh man, I don't like that they wasted her as early as they did. You know, she's only in like I think 3, 4 episodes, maybe 5. I can't remember exactly how much, but like, I was just fully expecting her to be taken in a direction that they just didn't. But yeah. So yeah, guys, I really don't have much else to say on this. Just like, good episode with 34. An overall good episode with 35, but I'm still mixed on the fact that they just fucking like got rid of Kureha like they did. But yeah, 3, however, yeah, he's a dick, and he's fucking like, he is really fucking psycho. They have him multiple times in the last several episodes, like fucking Mog to the or not to the camera, but like just Mog, where he pulls out a really sinister, like, kind of slasher smile, and it's like, Jesus Christ, like, they're setting him up for something big. You can tell, though, like I said, he is not a guy who is like that physically imposing. He's skinny as shit. He has a really emo fucking like mid 2000s emo aesthetic about him. he has the personality of, I don't know, a wet blanket, or maybe not a wet blanket, but like he's very soft spoken. He's kind of just plain in how he speaks and everything, and he's an evil asshole. So I think that this guy is going to be the end game boss, or one of the end game bosses. I can't really see them introducing too many more villains or mainstay villains at this point. They're probably gonna bring in some more people, but like, or just do something like that. But yeah, I don't know. But anyways, yeah. So good 2 episodes. Bit of wasted potential with 35, but yeah. So yeah, guys. So I really don't have much else to say. This went on longer than I thought, but yeah. So yeah, links to the description, all my shit. Subscribe if you want, and I'll see you guys in the next one.